Welcome to another video on SIRJ Maths channel. Now in the last video I spoke about doing some further work on matrices and on vectors. Now let us look at this question. If A is a matrix 4, -3, 1, 2, then the inverse of A, written A raised to the power of -1 is, and these are the choice, A, B, C, D. Now, how do we find the inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix? Now, the inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix, a 2 by 2 matrix can be written as A, B, C, D. And remember, we said that there are 2 rows and 2 columns, so it's a 2 by 2. Now, we spoke about the leading diagonal, the elements in the leading diagonal as A, D, and the elements in the other diagonal are B and C. And so the inverse of a 2 by 2 matrix, A inverse, is 1 over the determinant, which is AD minus BC, times the adjoint matrix. And quickly you would write 1 over A. Now when you look at this, A is really 4, so it is 1 over 4 times D, which is 2, we put that in bracket, minus BC is -3 times +1 times the adjoint matrix. Now the adjoint matrix basically is obtained by interchanging the elements in the leading diagonal, or the primary or main diagonal here, which runs downward from left to right. So we interchange. So where I have 4, I put 2. Where I have 2, I actually put 4. And then what we simply do is to change the signs of the elements in the other diagonal. So if this is -3, this becomes +3. This is +1, this becomes -1. And quickly we write 1 over 4 twos is 8, minus -3 times 1 is actually -3 times 2, 3, -1, 4. So what we actually get here is 1 over 8 plus 3 is 11, because what we do right here is to add. So we have 2, 3, -1, 4. And then now what we have is 1 over 11, which now becomes a scalar to be multiplied to the matrix. Now whenever we are multiplying a scalar to a matrix, what we would simply do is to just multiply that scalar quantity times each element in the matrix. So 2 times 1 over 11 is 2 over 11. 3 times 1 over 11 is 3 over 11. -1 times 1 over 11 is -1 over 11. And 4 times 1 over 11 is 4 over 11. And when we check 2 over 11, 3 over 11, -1 over 11, 4 over 11, our answer is B. You get a question like this. The following refers to questions 27 and 28. And it reads, given that vector PQ, based on our last video, we saw that, okay, once you see an arrow here at the top, it means that it is a vector. That means it has both magnitude and direction. So here is a tip of the arrow. Here is a tail of the arrow. It simply means that the vector begins at P and end up at Q. So it is going towards Q. It is a vector 3, 4. Now we said that the 3 represents the X movement, and the 4 represents actually what we call a Y movement. Now here, what is vector PQ? As a matter of fact, it is read as what is the modulus, or what is the magnitude of vector PQ. Now, as I said, everything basically has its own language. We have seen where we have a matrix A, and if we have 2 lines here like that, or line segments, this actually means the determinant of A. But in vectors, when you see the 2 line segments here at the sides, it actually means the magnitude of the vector, or the modulus, or the size of the vector. So the magnitude of vector PQ. Now, if we do a little sketch quickly, we would have seen that a vector PQ with 3, 4, the 3 represents the x movement, so we go from here, 1, we go 1, 2, 3, and then we'd go, so we'd have 0, 1, 2, 3, and then we go 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would basically represent our free vector right here, with that being P and that being Q. So this is what they are actually referring to. So it's like 1, 2, 3. From here to here is actually 4. So if we want to find the length of this is what they want us to find, the length of vector PQ. Now, from this, we know that we can actually use Pythagoras' theorem in order to find the length of vector PQ. So once we have a right angle triangle, we know that over here represent our hypotenuse. And so to determine the hypotenuse, it's really the square root of, or the sum of the square root of the sum of the two sides. So it's really this, the square root of the sum of 3 squared and 4 squared. So in fact, the magnitude of a vector is really the square root of x squared plus y squared. So all you simply do is to find the square root of 3 squared plus 4 squared. We know that 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. So it's really the square root of 9 plus 16, which actually gives us the square root of 25. And we know that the square root of 25 is 5. So if you are doing a multiple choice exam, as soon as you see 3, 4, and you remember Pythagoras' theorem, you know that the hypotenuse has to be 5. So the Pythagorean triplet is actually 3, 4, 5. Now, any multiples of these is actually also a Pythagorean triplet. So if you were to get 3 2 6, 4 2 8, then you know that the hypotenuse there has to be 10. So in fact, the length of the vector would have been 10. Once you see a 6 and an 8, so therefore the hypotenuse there, or which is the length of the vector, would have been 10 right there. 36 men can paint a shopping mall in 25 days. How many days will it take 15 men to paint the mall if they work at the same rate? Now, whenever you read a question having men and days, it is clearly dealing with labor, and it's an example of inverse proportion. Now, with inverse proportion, simply put, Art, if we have direct proportion, if one quantity is doubled, then the other quantity doubles also. But with inverse proportion, if one quantity is doubled, then the other quantity is halved. So half is the inverse of doubling. Now, with labor, if one man takes 10 days to complete a job, then 2 men working at the same rate must take a half of what one man actually does, which would have been 5 working days. Now, the shortcut of this, technically speaking, is 36 men can paint a shopping mall in 25 days. So you simply write down 36 men times 25 days. And then we want to find out how many days will it take 15 men to paint the mall. So we simply divide this by 15 men. And clearly here, this will cancel out. What our answer will be is in days. So we can use 5. 5 into 15 is 3. 5 into 25 is 5. 3 into 3, 1. 3 into 36 is 12. 12 fives will give us 60. So what we have here is 60 days. Now let us look at the logics of this. So you would circle 60. The logics is 36 men can paint a shopping mall in 25 days. How many days will it take 15 men? So the 15 men clearly must take more days than what the 36 men would actually do. So our answer here is 60 days. Okay, for this question, the diameter of the cylinder above is 6 centimeters. So while reading, the information, you check the diagram to see if the information is there. So here basically is the diameter of the cylinder. Now the diameter of the cylinder is based on having the cylinder itself having a circular base. So the base of the cylinder is actually a circle. So this is a circular base. Now, if its height is 20 centimeters, good. The height here is 20 centimeters. What is its volume in cubic centimeters? Now, we can actually turn our cylinder like this. And what happened here, if we turn this down, then the height of the cylinder becomes the length of the cylinder. And so what really comprises a cylinder in terms of the net is really two circles and what you call a rectangle. So it is a rectangle that will be folded to give us what you call our curved surface area. And once we fold this into a open-end cylinder, we can close the cylinder by having two circles at the end. Now, what happened here is that the cylinder actually has a constant cross-section. The constant cross-section indicates that if we were to cut, if this were like a loaf of bread, and you cut the bread vertically like this, or horizontally, then each slice will actually be a circle. So right through this will actually have a circle. And that is our cross-section, or what you call the end face of the cylinder. So it has constant cross-section. Now the volume of any solid with uniform cross-section or constant cross-section is area of cross-section times length. But the area, the cross-section is a circle. And we have seen where the area of a circle is actually pi r squared. So it's pi r squared times the length. Now the length, as we said, is the same thing as the height up here, which is 20. So it's times 20 centimeters. Now, if you notice in the answer, pi is not worked out, or is not given a value, because pi is a ratio between the circumference of a circle and its diameter. And it has a value, approximate value of, say, 22 over 7, 3.14, 3.142, etc. So we are not going to assign a value to pi based on the choices. So it's pi times the radius squared. Now if the diameter is 6 centimeters, then the radius, as we know, is half of the diameter. That's half of 6, which gives us 3. So it is 3 squared times the 20 centimeters. But the radius would have been 3 centimeters. And when we have 3 centimeters, it's really 3 centimeters here that has been squared. So it's pi times 3 centimeters squared. All squared is 3 centimeters times 3 centimeters, which gives us 9 square centimeters times 20 centimeters. And we know that 9 twos is 18. Join the 0. This with this will give us cubic centimeters. So volume is always in cubic, unless it is like liters, etc. So it's pi times 180 cubic centimeter. So what we do is we multiply 180 times pi, and we get 180 pi. But since the answer say in cubic centimeters, we can simply have 180 pi right there. Now here we have another example of a measurement question. The one that we just looked at is of a cylinder. Now this one is a cuboid, and the volume of the cuboid is 320 cubic centimeters. Now volume basically refers to the amount of space that a solid tends to occupy. Now a volume or a solid is really different from a plane shape. Now a plane shape, say a rectangle and a rectangular prism. So this is basically different from this, because a plane tends to just have 2 dimensions, length and width. Now, a solid tend to have three dimensions: length, width, and height. And the height, in essence, tend to determine the thickness. So because it has thickness, then it can actually hold something on the inside. And because it can hold something on the inside, then it tends to have volume, because it's the space occupied inside. So we can actually find the volume. Okay, it's like finding the amount of cubes that can actually hold inside this container right here. So the volume of the cuboid is 320 cubic centimeters. Now, if I have 320 cubic centimeters, in essence, I can look at it as, okay, having a cube, if we have cubes, which is a three-dimensional figure in which all the edges are of the same length. So if this is 1 centimeter, this is 1 centimeter, that is 1 centimeter. So the length is 1 centimeter, the width is 1 centimeter, and the height is 1 centimeter. So what really happened is the volume of this is actually length times width times height, which actually give us, since they are actually the same, then the volume of a cube is actually L cube. And so what we actually get is 1 cubic centimeters. So what I want you to understand now is that you have a volume of, the volume of the cuboid is 320 cubic centimeters. If this represents 1 cubic centimeter, in essence, it's like we have 320 of this can actually hold in this. It is not drawn to scale, but just look at it as 320 of this cube can actually hold in this. Now, the volume here is 320 cubic centimeters, and the height here is 5 centimeters. That is from here to here, 5 centimeters. So this is what determines the thickness, which is, in essence, is the height. Now, if the cuboid has a square base, now what I want you to understand now, if it is a square base, let us put this, use broken lines here. And so now we can see on the inside having this square base. So as a square, this side is equal to this side. So if this is the length and this is the width, then clearly the length and the width are basically the same. So based on the properties of a square, we know that this side is equal to this side and this is actually equal to this. So now we are seeing where it has a square base. Now we know that the area of a square is side times side, which is actually L times L, which gives us L squared. So what is the length of one side of the base? So what we do, we go to the volume of the cuboid, the formula for the volume of the cuboid. Quickly, length times width times height. We know the volume as 320, don't have to write the unit here, which equal length, I don't know, times the width, I don't know, but if I call it L, then clearly it's L squared. So length times width is L squared times the height, which I know as 5. So I want L, but L is squared. It is multiplied by 5. I am going to first divide by 5, divide this by 5, so I get L squared equal, I say 5 into 5, 1, 5 into 32 is actually 6 times, leaving us with 2, and 5 into 20 is 4. So now what I get here is that L squared equals 64. So since I want L, what times itself gives us 64? Clearly our answer here, square root of 64, is really 8. And so our answer is 8 centimeters. Now let us look at this. Items 32 to 33 refer to the following graph. Now as you look at this graph, you realize that it is what you call a quadratic graph. Now a quadratic graph is in the shape of a parabola. It is actually a smooth curve. So when you draw the curve or plot the points, then all the points along the curve will actually be along a smooth curve right here. Now when you look at this, clearly we see that the values of y actually go up, 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 reaches its maximum point, then actually begins to come back down. So this is actually what we call a turning point. Now when does a graph have a maximum turning point? It has a turning point anytime the coefficient of x squared is negative. So right here we can see that the coefficient of the square term here is negative. So the graph must have that particular shape. which is like an upside down U shape. So you need to know the orientation of the graph, in the sense that, okay, once the general form of a quadratic equation is y equal ax squared plus bx plus c. So if a is positive, then the graph must look like this. If a is negative, so if you have something like y equals, say, 2x squared plus something, we know that a here is 2. So the graph, once it is positive, the graph must have what you call a minimum turning point. But if it is negative, the graph must look like this. So remember, positive, it looks like this. Negative, it looks like that. So this is a minimum turning point. This one is a maximum turning point. Now, when we look at this graph, we realize that this clearly is our maximum turning point. And so what they want is a maximum point of y equal 4x minus x squared is. So what we are going to do is we are going to get the coordinates. We are going to get the coordinates of this point. To get the coordinates of the point, we need to get the x coordinate and the y coordinate. So what we do, we draw a vertical line down onto the x-axis, and we draw a horizontal line, or what we call a tangent, at this point here over to this. What you basically get here is called a maximum value, which is a y value, and right here is our x value. So the maximum turning point is found at 2. The y value here is 4, so clearly it is 2, 4, and you circle this answer. Now it is of note that whenever you have ax squared plus bx plus c really refers to the y-intercept. That is where the graph, which is a parabola, cuts the y-axis. And since we don't have any c, which is a constant, then the constant must be 0. So in fact, the graph will cut the y-axis at 0 right here at the origin. And the origin has coordinates 0, 0. Now, let us look at this. Number 32. The values, 33. The values of x at the points where y equals 4x minus x squared intersects y equals 0 are... Now, what I want you to understand is when you draw something like this on your graph sheet, or even on any plain paper, this is not a graph. This is simply representative of what you call a Cartesian plane or a coordinate plane, on which or in which you have a y-axis and you have an x-axis, and then you will have a grid on which now you would basically plot your points. So you'd plot your points. Now when you connect those points now, you get a picture, which is actually called a graph. So this is a picture or the graph. So this is not the graph. This is just the Cartesian plane on which you are going to plot the points to get your smooth curve called a parabola. So this is a graph. And the name of the graph, or the equation of the graph, is y equal 4x minus x squared. Now what they are saying here is the values of x at the points where y equal 4x minus x squared intersects y equals 0. Now y equals 0 is actually a graph. Now let us look at y equals 0. Now we know that this is our x-axis. This is our y-axis. Right here is our origin. Now where the y-axis and the x-axis intersect, then a right angle here is formed. Now this is a part of the number line. So right here to the right here, the values are moving, are getting infinitely larger. So from 0, the values are increasing. Going in this direction, the values are actually decreasing. Going up, the values are increasing. Going down, the values are actually decreasing. And so, if I plot this point here, and let us say this is 1, that is 2, that is 3, then basically, the coordinates of this point, if I call this point here A, is actually 1, 0. I go 1 on the x, no place on the y, so this is 1, 0. Right here would have been 2, 0, then 3, 0, 4, 0, etc. Negative 1, 0, negative 2, 0. So clearly, what we are seeing here is that the y value for any point on the x-axis is actually 0. And so we can now determine the equation of the line. The equation of the x-axis is the same thing as y equals 0. So y equals 0 is actually indicative of the x-axis. And so by extension, if we want to know where y equals, say, 3 is, clearly we know that y equals 0 is a horizontal line passing through 0 on the x-axis, which is actually the x-axis. So y equals 3, 1, 2, 3 right here must also be a horizontal line passing through 3 on the y-axis. So every point here, this would have been 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, etc. So what they actually want is find the coordinates of the point where the graph intersects with the x-axis or y equal to 0. And so they intersect right here and right here. So these are the 2 points where they intersect. So look out for something like that. So the coordinates here, this is the origin. So the coordinates of the origin must be 0, 0. So the answer clearly cannot be C and D, or C or D. It is between A and B. But, I am sorry, come over here. So we have the x value here is 0. One of the x values is 0 and the other one is 4. So it's x equals 0 and x equals 4. So you actually circle A. Now here we have 3.25% of $500 is. So what we need to do is to find 3.25% of $500. Now if you remember that a quarter is the same thing as 0.25, then we can simply write this as 3.25. Percent means out of 100, I divide here by 100. Off in maths means to multiply by the $500. And so we have 2 zeros cancel 2 zeros, or 100 into 500 is 5. Now we multiply. 5 5s is 25, 5 carry 2, 5 2s 10 and 2 is 12, 2 carry 1, 5 3 is 15 and 1 is 16. Decimal point is there. So our answer is $16.25. That is D. A dinner at a restaurant was advertised at $60 plus 18% tax. In other words, when you sit down to eat, you are going to eat a dinner meal for $60, but then you have to pay tax. Now that tax will be collected by the person who owns the restaurant and that money over to the government. How much is that tax? 18%. So you quickly write down the $60 plus 18% tax, which is $60 plus 18% tax. The tax is on the $60, so it's 18 over 100 times the 60. I can say 0 cancel 0 right here. Now you may go and say 2 into 10 is 5, 2 into 6 is 3, but to divide by 5 or other numbers may not necessarily be as easy as dividing by, say, 10. So what you could simply do is, okay, you have 18 over 100 times the 60. I say 0 cancel 0. And we now multiply 6 by 18. 6 8 is 48. 8 carry 4. 6 1 6 and 4 is 10. So now I have 108 to divide by 10. And based on the shortcut, as I said, the decimal point is at the end of the whole number. We simply move it one place here. So we have 10.8, which is $10.80. So now we add $10.80 to our $60. So it is $10 plus the $60 give us $70 along with the 80 cents, which is $70.80. Now a television set costs $350 cash. Now a question of this nature comes quite frequently in exam, and this question comes very often in the multiple choice. A television set costs $350 cash. So immediately write down cash price CP equals to $35. Right? Speedily. When bought on hire purchase. No, hire purchase, you write down the formula HPP, which is hire purchase price, equals basically the deposit plus what you call the amount payable plus the amount payable. That's basically or essentially the formula for hire purchase price. But when you have it as monthly payments, when you get it out in monthly payments and you get equal monthly payments and the number of monthly payments, it essentially is the deposit plus the total monthly installment or monthly payment. Same thing, installment or payment. And so quickly we know that the deposit, it says here, a deposit of $35 is required. So we write down the deposit as $35, right? Plus, followed by 12 monthly payments of $30. In other words, after you pay down that $35, every month for 12 months, you are going to pay $30. So if it's 1 month, $30, 2 months, $60, 3 months, $90. Each time we are multiplying. So therefore, if it's 12 months, it's 12 times $30, and that will give us $360 because it's 12 times the 30, which gives us the $360. So when I add $360 to $35, $60 plus $35 is $95. The 300 is by itself, so it's $395. Now the $395 is our higher purchase price. Now the question is, how much is saved by paying cash? Now clearly cash price is always less than the higher purchase price, because imagine you are paying down a certain amount of money to pay the rest, or what you call the outstanding balance, which is a remainder. Okay, and for that you have to pay interest. And so that interest now will actually make the difference between the higher purchase price and our cash price. So what really happened now is, okay, how much is saved? So what amount is saved is actually the difference between the higher purchase price and the cash price. So then you take the cash price, which is $35. Sorry, the cash price here is $350 from the $395. You don't have to write down. When I take $50 from $95, I actually get $45, because $395 minus $350, so it's $95 minus $50 is $45. So right here we circle 45. Now we have come to the end of another video, and thank you guys for your support. Continue to share these videos. You can encourage persons to subscribe, share, like. Now the exam, the CXC exam, is basically on the 28th of this month. Just a few weeks away, just basically 2 weeks away. Now, please look forward to my next video. Continue to work hard, believe in yourself, continue to watch SIRJ Maths channel, because definitely it can help you to pass this exam, to get a grade 1 or even a grade 2. Thank you guys. Look forward to the next video.